Hello, fourth graders. Welcome to lesson 3.6. Choose a method for multiplication. Please pause to write the lesson number and title in your notebook. Today's lesson objective is I can choose a method to multiply two-digit numbers. Please pause again to write the lesson objective in your notebook. Throughout Unit 3, we've been working on different ways to multiply two-digit numbers. And today's lesson is on deciding which method I should use and why. So we're going to practice both ways that we've learned to multiply a two-digit number and see why sometimes one might be easier and another one might be easier. Let's begin by reading our Unlock the Problem. It says, did you know using math can help prevent you from getting a sunburn? The time it takes to burn without sunscreen multiplied by the SPF or sun protection is the time that you can stay in the sun safely with sunscreen. If today's UV index is 8, Aaron will burn in 15 minutes without sunscreen. So Aaron puts on sunscreen with an SPF of 25. How long will she be protected? Well, let's look at our blue box. It says we're going to underline the sentence that tells you how to find the answer. Okay, well, let's underline this. It says the time it takes to burn without sunscreen is multiplied by the SPF or sun protection to say how long you can safely stay in the sun. Okay, and then our next thing says we need to circle the numbers we're going to use. Well, we don't really need to know the UV index, so I'm going to cross that out. But we do need to know that she's going to be outside for 15 minutes and that her SPF is 25. So we need 15 and 25. And we know that we are going to multiply these numbers because it says multiply up here. Alright, so one way that we can do this that we practiced is our partial products. So we're going to multiply a little bit at a time to solve this problem. So we're going to do 25 times 15, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to break this down into 10 and 2. So I'm going to break one set of 10 into two tens. Well, 10 times 2 is 20 tens, or 200. Now I have still my one set of tens, but now I'm going to multiply it by my 5 ones. Well, 10 times 5 is 50 ones. So I'm going to write down 50. Alright, now I'm going to move on to my 5. So now I have 5 times 2 tens. Well, 5 times 2 is 10, but 10 tens is 100. And then I'm going to do 5 times 5, and that is 25 ones. So I'm going to write down 25. Now, the way we've been practicing in class before we add is that we've been doing this in a lattice method or with our boxes. So this would look like we draw a box and it needs to have 4 parts because each one of our numbers is a two-digit number. And then we're going to break our numbers down into each part. So our first number is 15, and 15 is made up of 10 and 5. And then our next number is 25, and that's made up of 20 and 5. And then just like we've practiced in class, and just like we did above, we're going to multiply each part. So let's start off in the top left corner, 10 times 20. 10 groups of 20 is 200. Now straight across the top, 10 times 5. 10 groups of 5 is 50. And notice my numbers are matching the same as they were above. Alright, now I'm going to move down to my bottom row, and I'm going to do my 5. So I have 5 times 20. 5 times 20 is 100. And last I'm going to do 5 times 5 is 25. And then I'm going to add all of my numbers together. So I have 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 5 is 5. And then I have 0 plus 5 plus 0 plus 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. And then I have a 200 and a 100. So 2 plus 1 is 3. So when I take all of my partial products and add them together, I get 375. So she can stay in the sun for 375 minutes and she will be protected. Okay, on this next page we're still going to multiply 15 and 25, but this time we're going to do it with our old school regrouping. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to estimate. Well, 15 is pretty close to 20, and 25 is pretty close to 20. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then I have 2 zeros here, so I'm going to move them both over. So my answer is going to be about 400. So let's multiply old school this time and see what our answer is going to be. So I multiply straight up. 5 times 5 is 25. The 2 goes around to the top, and the 5 goes underneath. Alright, then I multiply 5 times 2, so go diagonal next. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So I get 125. Next I'm going to multiply 25 by 1 set of 10. So I'm going to go the other direction. 1 times 5 is 5. Oh, I almost forgot to add my magic 0. So add the 0. Then 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 2 is 2, so I get 250. Then I take my 125 and my 250 and I add them together. 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So again, I get 375. So even though I did a different way, I got the same answer. Alright, let's practice this with a couple different numbers. Now we're going to practice this with 57 times 43. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to estimate. Well, 57 looks pretty close to 60 to me. I could round it down to 50, but I think it's closer to 60. Alright, and now I'm going to round 43 to 40. And now I'm going to pull out my numbers that are not zeros. 6 times 4 is 24. And then I'm going to take my 2 zeros and add them back on. So my answer is going to be about 2,400. Alright, our first line says we're going to multiply using partial products. We've been doing this in a grid, but we can do it to the side here as well, or underneath itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply 40 by 5. And since we've been using the bar method, let's write that to the side. So I'm going to draw a box, and I'm going to split it into 4. 57 is going to go on the side, so that's made up of 50 and 7. And 43 is going to go up on the top, and that's made up of 40 and 3. And now I'm going to solve each part. So 5 times 4 is 20. And then I have 2 zeros. So I'm going to have 2 zeros. So my first number is going to be 2,000. Alright, now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply straight across the top row. 50 times 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. But then I have a 0 here, so I'm going to add 1 0, so I get 150. And now I'm going to move down to my bottom row. So first I'm going to do 7 times 40. 7 times 4 is 28. And then add the 0 from 40. so I get 280. And then last I'm going to do 7 times 3 is 21. And then I'm going to take all those numbers and add them together. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 5 gives me 15. Carry the 1. 2 plus 1 is 4, and bring down the 2. So my answer is 2,451. Alright, now we're going to do this same problem. This time I'm going to multiply with regrouping, our old school multiplication. So I'm going to go straight up first. 3 times 7 is 21, so the 2 goes on top and the 1 goes underneath. Then I'm going to go diagonal. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. So there's my 30. Then the next thing I do is I add my magic 0, because when I multiply by a place value of 10, everything moves over a 0. And now I'm going to multiply everything by the 5. So I'm going to go 5 times 3 is 15. So the 1 goes on top and the 5 goes underneath. 5 times 4 is 20, but I have to count this 1. So that's 21. And then I'm going to add 0 plus 1 is 1. 5 plus 0 is 5. 3 plus 1 is 4. And bring down the 2, so I get 2,451. My answers match. So even if I do partial products or if I do regrouping, I get the same number. So we need to decide sometimes which way is easy for us to do. We will continue practicing these two methods tomorrow in class. You're almost finished. When you're sure you understand this lesson, go back to your teacher's website and complete the exit slip. See you tomorrow.